Can you feel the Irish love? I think, can we just look at you for a moment? They just want to look at you. It's just so brilliant to have you here, you know. I'm getting a buzz out of it.
Good.
Yeah, I'm getting a nice little heart buzz out of it. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, as I said in the intro, our theme here is really positivity. So we're going to get you to talk a bit about that tonight. One of the videos that you did recently was about raising your vibration.
I did it a long time ago.
Yeah, you did it a long time ago. Okay, so I checked it out recently then. That's what I checked out.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, first off, is there some great things people can do to really, really raise their vibrations?
Yeah, there's lots of things. Well, one of my favorite things is to dive into a state of gratitude. But gratitude is really appreciation for anything. It's a positive focus towards anything. So you can start really small or you can go big. My favorite way to go about it is to do what I call like an Easter egg hunt. Do you guys have that in this country? Yeah. It's an Easter egg hunt for positivity. So when you're driving around in your car, you kind of say to yourself, okay, so what do I like about what I'm looking at? What do I like about this moment? Do I like the feeling of the steering wheel? If so, you make a mental note of that. You're kind of just creating a list of the things that you enjoy that are in your environment. And it really will surprise you how much that changes your focus. Because increasing your frequency is really about the quality of focus. If all day long in your head you've got this monologue of everything that's going wrong in your life, then obviously your vibration is going to follow in alignment with that and dip. So that's one of my favorite things to do for raising your frequency. I love that you're sitting here on stage with me asking me this one. I did that one so long ago. Now I'm into this like totally other kick of shadow work. So it's like
I know we're on a different buzz here tonight. Yeah.
Like totally different buzz.
Yeah. Give me more examples of things that really you appreciate in life.
That I appreciate?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love the snow.
Snow.
I'm a major foodie. I have to admit. I love animals. Totally obsessed with animals. I have this like zeal for when somebody has a new realization. Obviously, in my line of work, there would be something that I'd be in love with, but I can't tell you what it does to me. When I see somebody that's like, oh my gosh, I get it, the light bulb came on in your head type of thing, it's like crack cocaine. So,
really?
I'm addicted. It's literal addiction.
So when somebody has a realization and they let go of a block in their life,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. It's heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like playing a good chess game too.
I
mean, for me as a teacher, when I'm sitting with somebody and I'm trying to work them through whatever subconscious block they have for whatever they want in their life, it's the best game in the world.
So you're kind of finding the piece that puts them back together.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. So you mentioned earlier on about landing here today in Ireland.
Yeah.
And you had a bit of a moment.
You want me to talk about the moment?
Talk about the moment. Talk about the Irish vibe.
Okay, so I haven't actually talked about this on any of my blogs, but my great-grandmother emigrated to... Is emigrate or emigrate? I can't remember. I don't know English now.
Emigrated.
Okay, so she emigrated to United States by force. It was one of those things where she didn't want to, but had to type situations. And she, like, my mother describes being around her and having her just be so miserable about leaving Ireland, right? And she couldn't give it up. Her name was Clancy. Right?
That's Irish.
Yeah, so I come from the Irish witches. Big surprise, right? But so basically, I am the first person in my female line to come back to the country.
Wow.
And like today is the day. So, because I've never been here before. So I wasn't really anticipating, wasn't thinking about it. But when the plane landed, I stepped off the plane and instantly started crying. It was like, I mean, immediately. The people around me were like, what's going on with Teal? Like, is she okay? Oh my God, I can't even describe to you. It was just like a full body sensation of being super connected to the land, but also I could actually feel my genetics like popping open, and I could feel the pain of leaving this place. I could feel the oppression from, religious domination. I could feel like all of it at once. So I was like drowning in this like sorrow/love mode. It was unbelievable. So yeah, I'm really, really interested in what's going to happen over the course of my trip here, because we're not just staying in Dublin. Like, we're actually going up into the countryside, which I know holds some stuff for me. So, wow.
Mm-hmm. How long are you staying in Ireland for?
They know. I don't know my own schedule.
Oh, okay. We'll ask them later. So you also spoke about Glastonbury to me as well. You were just in Glastonbury a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Okay, so I've tried to go to Glastonbury every single time I've been in London, and something always happens to make it so that I can't go. So it's really frustrating. But this time I put my foot down. I'm like, no, I'm not letting it happen again. So we woke up at 5 o'clock this morning and drove in the dark up to this hill they call the Glastonbury Tor. And I walked up it with my group, like in pitch darkness, and we actually watched the sunrise there. It was unbelievable. I'm completely in love with that place. And then we went to the Abbey, and then I walked around all the crystal shops. So I was so buzzed by the time I got to the airport. It was amazing.
Crystals are big. You love crystals.
Oh my gosh.
You have loads of them.
Oh, it's like watching a kid in a candy store. I'm just like, oh yeah. Where did Teal go? We don't know now.
So I'm going to bring you back to positivity, right? Because that's my buzz. Positive Paul, they call me, you know. So
it's like you didn't do your research before you hired me.
I know, yeah. That's what I said. I said to Blake, who works with you, I said I want to do an interview with Teal, and the theme is positivity.
I'll try to keep it positive.
We don't really do positivity.
Yeah.
We do it now and again. So when something in our lives supposedly negative happens, okay? Can you talk to us about dealing with that in a really kind of powerful way, so that you flow the energy, you kind of stay in a neutral space, you know what I mean? Rather than, can you talk a bit about that when something really kind of negative happens in our lives? How do we, like for example, this week we had a bit of a guy become a president that some people were not happy with.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know I can't remember his name, but
I'm in denial at this point.
He's living in the White House now, and people are not really happy with that.
Yeah.
So how do you bring yourself back to that equanimity and that powerful place?
You comfortable with honesty? Because I hope this does not get into like this kind of dance between you and I for the whole rest of the night. But my answer is the worst thing you can possibly do is to go positive.
Okay. I think you're going to win, so I'm not going up against you.
Smart. No. Okay.
Change the magazine, Negative Life.
Okay, I'll explain to you what I mean by that, because it's not like I'm like, oh, just trash the White House or whatever. But here's how it goes, right? Positive focus and positivity is a really amazing tool, except for when it is used as a tool of suppression. When positivity is something that you grab onto so as to avoid something negative, it actually fuels the negative, which is why so many people, they start off with what I call 101 spirituality. That's usually the phase of positive focus. 101 spirituality is, I'm going to do anything I can to feel good because I understand that I create my own reality, and positive focus is what makes that reality come to be. But then why do negative things keep happening to me if that's what's happening? What we're not taking into account is that we have a subconscious mind that's capable of thinking 10 negative thoughts in the space that we consciously think one positive thought. So if you think about momentum and thoughts, the momentum on the side of negative focus is 10 times larger.
It's stacked, yeah.
So law of attraction is responding to all of those thoughts, regardless of whether you're conscious of thinking them or not. This is why we find people run up against these negative things even though they've committed to a positive life. So the way that it works vibrationally when somebody's desperately focusing positively when something negative goes on is that a tug of war is in fact taking place between a side of them that is in pain and actually desperately needs the love and care and attention of the eternal self, and the aspect of self that's trying to escape from it. So what I am suggesting is, let's say, a more graduated form of dealing with negative energy. When you have that hit where you're like, oh my gosh, life is could be really bad right now because we've got this type of president. We treat that aspect of ourselves that's in a state of total negativity and terror as if it's a tiny child that's screaming for our attention. And we come in underneath it and take care of it instead. But we cannot take care of it without validating it completely. So what I find in the positive focus community is a lack of understanding about how emotions need to be handled. Emotions specifically. If you do not validate an emotion, you can't get through it. It will continue to maintain itself. So in fact, when somebody is thinking, my gosh, I feel like the world is going to hell, what they actually need to hear is, I could completely understand how you would think that. It's valid to feel that way. Mm-hmm. And so you'll feel kind of a release happen when you validate the emotion. That's the indication that you can step forward into a positive space. But sometimes those negative emotions need a length of, let's call it unconditional presence. Meaning I'm going to be here with you completely. It's interesting, the idea of being there with your emotion, right? Mm. But being there, present in my body with this emotion, no matter what it is. So most positive focus people, what they do is they have a conditional relationship with themselves. They say, I'll be here with you as long as you're saying something good. But that was the pain that we all got into with people in our lives when we were younger, when we really needed unconditional presence in those moments. We didn't get it because mom and dad did the same thing. Talk to me when you have something nice to say.
It's interesting. It's like, I heard it described, it reminds me of the quote from Rumi. You know the quote from Rumi?
No. But tell me.
Yeah, well, I can't really remember it verbatim. But it's about, he uses this phrase where he says, he lists all the kind of bad emotions, supposedly bad emotions, and he says, give them a home and treat them like a friend. That's the theme of it, So it's, what you're talking about is holding the space for whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
Almost like it's a child.
Yes.
And you're kind of allowing that to just be.
Yes, no, I'm going to tell you that that's the highest form of positivity that exists.
That's almost like an element of mastery, because when I think that if I go into the world, okay, and I allow the world, what's happening in the world to dictate how I feel, then I'm just seesawing all the time,
Why is that wrong?
But you know what I mean? What I mean is...
I know.
I'm going up and down. Yeah.
Why is that wrong?
Yeah. No, I don't mean it's wrong. But
there's resistance to that.
Yeah.
So whenever we have resistance, if we're gonna, it depends where we want to be, how committed we want to be to practice. What causes pain is not negativity; it's resistance to negativity. Okay. Right. So when you feel that resistance in your being, that's an indication, kind of like a meditation bell going off, saying, okay, this right here is what's in fact making me unhappy. It's the fact that I'm not okay with going up and down that makes me go down so deeply. So, if I was to paint you a picture of somebody who's in a state of what we call enlightenment, it would look much different than what most people would picture. Most people have in their head this idea of somebody who's in 24-hour-a-day bliss. But that's not enlightenment. Your beings who are enlightened, they don't have resistance, that's all. So if they go down, they don't have resistance going down. If they go up, they don't have resistance going up. And so you don't see the surface turmoil. Here's a way to understand that. Rapids, right? Mm-hmm. Going down a river, if you just let it happen, that's not causing you a lot of pain. It's also not going to be very visible from the outside that somebody's drowning, right? But the minute you turn upstream against that rapid, you're going to see waves, you're going to see chaos, you're going to see someone flailing, they're going to be in a lot of pain. It's the resistance to that flow that is the issue.
We spoke earlier a bit about Eckhart, okay? So he's got some great tips on this kind of, staying in that space. He always says that. I love that quote that he has where he says, it's never the situation that's causing the problem, it's your thoughts about the situation.
Always.
But tell me a bit about him. You know him quite well.
Yes. Yeah. I consider him to be pretty much the reason I survived the last 2 years. Because it's very hard. Some of you may understand this following my career. It's very hard to be in a kind of position of as much pressure as I have as a public figure, but not just a public figure, because most public figures, they get to be eccentric and nutcases, and you kind of expect that. But if you're in the field of spirituality, health, and wellness, you're supposed to be in a state of perfection with all that pressure and all the hatred as well. So what's been really super amazing is to have him as kind of like a mentor for the business itself.
Oh, really? Yeah. You hang out a little bit, or
when I go up to his area of the globe, yes, we do that. But we also email and Skype, and he's amazing.
Yeah.
Like literally the best.
I interviewed him for the magazine, and it was really a big deal for me. There was a Skype session or a telephone call, and I remember his voice. We were sitting in this studio up in a studio in Dublin, and I brought this friend of mine along, and we were like, we dialed his number, and we both looked at each other, and we went, "We're phoning Eckhart Tolle. We're actually calling him." And next thing we hear this beautiful, his voice is so...
Oh, it's like literally, if I could just have it on repeat every day, all day, I would do that. Yeah.
Oh, Paul, It was amazing. It's like talking to God or something. A bit like talking to you. So, there's obviously something going on at the moment, consciousness-wise.
That's an understatement.
Yes. I like making understatements. So, there's something going on. Look at all these people. Look at all this energy in the room. Look at the spiritual awakening that's going on. Yeah. What's happening? What sense do you get of it?
It's the 100th monkey. You guys are familiar with the 100th monkey concept, right? No? Okay.
Oh, yes, the Australian story.
Well, in general, when you're looking at a species, there's a tipping point. So, like, let's say you get a group of monkeys together and one of them figures out how to make a tool instead of use their hands for something. The 100th monkey means at a certain point, the entire species will be using that tool.
I love monkeys, by the way. I am a monkey. That's my sign.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's Chinese, right?
Yeah.
I'm a rat.
Oh, are you? Okay. Any more rats in the room? And monkeys in the room? Okay, I'll see all the monkeys later, okay? So...
Where was I?
Yeah, what's going on with the shift? You feel like we're...
Well, essentially, it's the 100th monkey point. We have been desiring our way into, let's call it the new species. The human race cannot be stagnant. No species can be stagnant.
Are we shifting into another dimension of reality? We hear talk of the fifth dimension.
We have the capacity to comprehend the fifth dimension. People don't understand what that means. So when we say, okay, we're going to go into 5D awareness, they're like, well, what does that mean for me? Am I going to be physical? Like, what is it going to be like up there? They think of it in terms of space because we're trying to approach 5D with a 3D mind, which doesn't work. Fifth dimension has several properties to it, which we will now have access to, yes, if we choose to step onto the road of awareness. So in the fifth dimension, for example, you have access to multiple timelines. This is when you become capable of changing the course of the life that you've already chosen. So, you want me to give you an example?
How to do that later?
Yeah. Well, so like in 5D, right? Let's take the typical 5D reality. Let's say it's all about life path potentials. So if you had, let's say, made a decision when you were 5 years old to go into cricket as a game.
Play cricket. Okay.
Yeah, and so you are now a professional cricket player. If you were to follow that timeline, you have the capacity to access those types of decisions in your life. So you could take a totally different road than the one you've even chosen today. So like in the 3D, you're so limited by the linear timeline, right? See the shaking of the head? This is the problem. So
No, I'm not shaking my head. I'm loving it.
You're loving it? You're not like, what is this? Okay. In the linear 3D timeline, you can't do anything about the past, can you? You can only do something about the now and the future. That changes in 5D.
You have access to all parts of the timeline.
Yes.
Okay. And the timeline isn't...
So
it isn't linear. It's all happening in the one moment, right?
Exactly. So you become much more aware of that, and so you can mess with timeline potentials. And this is something that shamans who are already in 5D awareness have been able to do for thousands of years. That's what soul retrieval is. But imagine if an entire demographic of people could do that work.
That's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't know if I'd say it's fun all the time.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, I'll give you a few things I want changed. Your daily practice. What do you do on a daily basis to keep yourself in a good space or in a space?
Okay. I really like a meditative practice, but my favorite type of meditative practice is presence, but with self-awareness. It's not just like a presence meditation. In a classic presence meditation, there's no judgment, there's no exploration. It's literally about being in the state of the reserved or removed observer. It's a disidentification exercise. I prefer a more active form of meditation, so I'll sit down, begin by tapping into how I feel non-judgment, but then I'll pick something to follow. So let's say I have a sensation in my body when I wake up in the morning and I'm in this meditative practice. I will go into the sensation, start communicating with the sensation, start figuring out where it came from, why it's there. I treat it as like a window into self-awareness. That's my favorite type of meditation to do during the day. I really like exercise. I would be lying if I didn't just admit to you right now that I do love using sex. Yeah, I'm one of those spiritual teachers that's going to tell you it's really important to embrace physicality. So it's not about getting out of physicality. It's not like physicality and the things that go along with that are a distraction from spirituality. We can bring spirituality into any aspect of them, and that's what we're in fact supposed to be doing at this time. So it's about bringing spirituality into your cities, bringing spirituality into your workday, bringing spirituality into your sex life, bringing it into the way you prepare food. So if you look at my day, it's like that. I basically bring this into whatever I'm doing.
So it's like a sacred kind of connection.
Every moment of my life is a sacred moment.
Yeah. Essentials, like a real...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you like nature as well?
I do, yeah, but I think I take it for granted because I was raised by 2 forest rangers in the middle of the wilderness. Like, when I say wilderness, I mean, like, we had no electricity, and our bathroom was outside, and my closest neighbor was 50 miles away. Wow. Yeah, so, like, wilderness is an understatement.
We get that a bit in Ireland, too, but there's, like, we've got, like, 20 pubs in our little towns all around the country.
I like that. I do love nature. No, I really, really do love it, but I think that it would probably impact me more as a person if that hadn't been, like, my whole life.
So you kind of like the modern society now as well? You look at aspects of that?
It depends. I do like culture. I mean, I would like to split my time between being out in nature and being like deeply engaged with people and what people create. I love the theater. It's like I'm obsessed with opera and with ballet and that kind of stuff. If I'm watching live theater, I'm like in heaven.
Did you say theater? Are you going to go to the theater when you're here?
I don't know that there was one, so...
Oh, we've got lots. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. And people who live in my community love to go just to watch my expressions. Oh, I'm so bad when I watch something, you guys. I can't even tell you.
Just the live performance.
I'm so engaged.
The live performance, yeah. Beautiful. We spoke as well backstage about, I didn't know this, but you have a son.
You didn't know this?
No, I didn't know that. So I wanted to talk to you a bit about parenting.
Okay.
What have you learned from your son? What can you share about parenting?
I want to write whole books on parenting. That's like, tell me about the world. Which aspect of the world? Oh my gosh, my son has been the most incredible catalyst in my life. What has he taught me? I don't know if it's possible for a woman in this particular society to get away from mommy guilt. Yeah, it's like even when you're conscious can be at the moment with your child, my hell. It is terrifying to have that in your hands as your responsibility. I mean, how many of you have children? Isn't that moment when they're like 2 or 3 and you hear them repeat something that you've said before and you're like, okay, I could like completely mold this person. And so it's at that moment that you realize like the gravity of the responsibility of that, and it's both awesomely powerful and terrifying. So I wasn't expecting that. I also wasn't expecting the amount of like immediate love that I've experienced with him. It's like there's really nothing that he could do or say to me that would make me stop loving him. And so for some people who have a very difficult time having access to feelings of love, I think having a child is about as close as you can get to unconditional.
Yeah, I'd imagine. What's his name?
Winter.
Winter.
Yeah.
You have great names over there. I'm changing my name. Teal, Swan, and Winter. You know? What age is your boy?
He's 7.
7, okay. He sounds amazing.
Yes.
Beautiful as well.
He's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really abnormal to have a mom who's doing what I'm doing for a living, traveling around the world. I'm like, it's really hard, I'll tell you the honest truth, to be on Skype with him and have that feeling where I'm like, well, I really need to be home, but I also feel this extreme calling. So what's been interesting is I've involved him in that struggle, in fact, not giving the responsibility to him as a parentified child, but kind of like involving him in the fact that I have emotions about that, wanting to be with him, but also having this passion. And he's actually told me to come here, like literally to this event.
To this event?
Oh yeah. Like I was talking to him and I was like, well, Mommy's kind of having a problem right now. And he goes, but you have to help people, Mommy. I'll be fine. He doesn't have the problem. I have a problem. Sometimes I call and I'm like, can we talk tomorrow? And he's like, if I remember. I'm like, should I be glad or... I don't know.
He sounds amazing. Can I book him for an event here?
That's
Can you
actually
give me his number?
the joke. Yeah, I probably should. The joke that a lot of people have, especially in the community, are people that just meet him, randomly on the street. He's very abnormal. Would we be surprised?
This room is full of abnormal people. There's a big topic, obviously, that everybody wants to know about, and that's relationships. In their own lives and romantically.
Are you sure?
So you did a video, I don't know whether it was a recent one, about how to... You do a lot of them now. So why it's so difficult to leave one was what you were discussing in one of your videos. And then there's a few people here who probably want to get into one. So could you talk to both those people? People who want to leave and people who want to get one.
Oh my God, well there's... let me think about what I might say. I'm going to watch you for a moment. I feel like one of the reasons that it's so incredibly hard to leave relationships is just the complete uncertainty that you're going to find something better. It's like most of us, when we go to make a move, we start thinking about the worst case scenario. And so it seems like that's what we're jumping over the bridge onto. That will compel anyone to stay with what's familiar, myself included. So it's like we have to get ourselves into a space where we can start to conceptualize of what would be possible on the other side. And I know that's asking a bunch. But if you have access to what it has felt like in the past, to get with a new partner and then have that thought where you're like, oh my gosh, thank God I'm not in that relationship anymore. Let that serve as a little bit of a pearl that says, worked once. Potentially it could work again in the exact same way. Okay, people who want to manifest a relationship.
Yeah. There's a few of them here, is there? What? People who want a relationship.
I'm so scared to hit curveballs around you. Oh my God, it's funny.
Me?
Yeah.
Curve away.
Oh, I love the foot we started off on. This is a positive magazine, Teal. I'm like, uh-oh. Okay. What I find with people who really want to manifest a relationship is that most of those people are completely unaware of the aspect of themselves that doesn't. The way that this universe works is you're supposed to be in relationships. If you were to not meddle with that, you would instantly get into them all the time, because the universe understands that the majority of your expansion is coming through relationship. So, if you're not manifesting relationships, there is a reason why you are not lining up with that. So it's one of those things where we can go along all day long telling ourselves the story. No, I really want a relationship, like I genuinely want it, and it's just not happening. There is an aspect of you that wants the exact opposite thing, and the question is why? Does it come from trauma? Is it an actual, like a valid part of my real self? This is the kind of questioning we need to start having. But I want you to consider, if you're in that position, that there is an aspect of you that in fact does not want it.
There is an aspect of you that does not want it?
Yeah.
Okay. And now...
So can I give you an example?
Yeah.
If you're the kind of person who, let's say you start out and you're a version spirituality 101 type of person, and so you've got a lot of resistance and negativity. And you are afraid of this up and down movement. And you have noticed in the past that when you get near other people, it's even harder to maintain your vibration. Because they're instantly influencing you down and up, right? If you're really, really committed to not feeling bad, and you've made that connection between I get around other people, especially in an intimate relationship, and start losing myself into them, and so I have no control over whether I feel bad, then you start to basically develop an aspect of you that's like much more committed to just being, in my own little bubble of peace. Don't get in my bubble. Yeah. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And on that same theme, tell me about a beautiful way to love someone, that space where you just have a beautiful relationship. What's that about? How does that flow? I mean, I just met you and your husband backstage. I mean, I'm in love with both of you already, so it's working. So can you share a bit about that?
Okay, so I think a huge part of it is commitment. It's that both of you have to be committed to the same kind of relationship, the same kind of thing, and the same, basic idea. Because if you're on two different pages in a relationship is when you start to get into serious trouble. And by the way, it does not matter how perfect the other person is for you. There will be days when you're not on the same page. It's about that commitment to being on the same page. So basically, that's the commitment I'm talking about. In a relationship, let's say you and I are in a relationship, it's about the commitment to be on the same page. So when we start to feel like we're not, we don't leave it like that. I mean, that should be the number one priority. Mm-hmm. And that's serious, right? Because we've got work and all these other priorities. But I kind of look at your main relationship in life, if you're going to partner yourself off, as the basic structure for your, stability in life. You might think that's funny because you might be like, don't ever base your stability on somebody else. But I cannot tell you how amazing it feels to have this safety net of what a secure relationship feels like. This is the missing need for most of us. So when you commit to being on the same page, that's number one. Number two, there has to be compatibility. Now, I would love to be a spiritual teacher who's like, it doesn't matter whether you're compatible, because you're always capable of being in a space of love. Not when you choose that primary relationship. No, you need compatibility. Otherwise, there will be serious conflicts of needs. And need conflicts are the most serious conflicts we can get into in a relationship. When one person says, I need space, and the other person's like, I really don't need space. Now that becomes an issue. So the more incompatibility there is in a relationship, the more difficult it is to make the relationship really, really good. And communication in a relationship is everything. Literally everything. Mm-hmm. So what's really difficult, though, for a lot of us, especially if we don't feel like we are, let's say, lovable, right? We aren't honest with who we are, and so we cannot find compatible partners. It's the kind of thing where, I just want love, and so when I meet this person, let's pretend it's me. When I meet this person who's standing at a bar, right? I don't drink alcohol.
Are you winking at everybody right now?
Yes. When I meet that person who's standing at a bar, and I know that this life that we're living right now, or this moment we're having, I don't want to do this if I'm in a committed relationship. I'm doing it to date. This is a common problem, by the way. People like us, we go meet each other at bars. Okay, do you want to have your long-term relationship at a bar? No. Because this is your first indication. Potentially, one of us really does like doing this, and the other one's just doing it to get a date. So what happens in 2 or 3 months? Usually 3 months is when we stop pretending, right? In 3 months, what happens when one of us wants to go to the bar and the other one's like, wait a minute, we're like, what are you going to the bar for? This is a committed relationship. Let's stay and watch a movie. So it's about being so incredibly honest with yourself. It's almost like you have to get to a point where you're so fed up with having bad relationships or starting them and having them fail that you're just sort of like willing to say, screw it. Because at that point, you're ready to say, no, I'm vegan and I'm actually not going to date somebody that eats meat. Or, I don't like alcohol and I don't want it in the house. That's going to be a compatibility issue if somebody's like a serious wine advocate, right? or I know, and everybody's going to have these types of yeses and nos, right? I have some things that I'm okay with in a partner that other women would be like, oh, hell no, not in 5 million lifetimes. And other aspects where I'm like, unless you fit into this box, I just cannot do it with you in terms of compatibility. And it's not about loving the person. I might have friends that do those things, but this is about choosing a partner. With partners, there better be compatibility. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would say.
Good one. Self-love. Everybody talks about self-love. They say, at spiritual workshops, they tell you got to love yourself if you're going to meet someone. So how do people go about loving themselves? That's about healing themselves.
When people say that, like, you got to love yourself or else, like, I literally just want to take a glass of water.
Because I don't know what it means.
That's exactly why I wrote my second book.
Okay.
Because in the beginning of my own process, getting out of this like hellhole of suicide and all that kind of stuff, I can't tell you how many people told me that. You just gotta love yourself better, Teal. I was like, you just need to die at this point. Because nobody knows what that means, even them. It's like this abstract concept. So it's really about like, how do we love ourselves? So when I started looking around, it was really awful, by the way, I'm just gonna tell you. When you're like really hating yourself and you have to spend time with people who are loving themselves, it is awful. It's sort of like someone who's starving to death in Africa saying, oh, I'm going to figure out what makes people wealthy, and so I'm going to, just get on an airplane and fly up to Manhattan to like the Vaurish area. It's torture. But I was like, no, I'm so committed to this. I have to figure out the difference between the people who love themselves and the people who don't. And when I started watching, there are definite variables. So we could make it really easy, and we could say that loving yourself is about doing those things, even if you don't love yourself yet. And what you find is when you start doing those things, self-love naturally arises. So one of those things is that I noticed the people who love themselves, they commit to how they feel more so than anything else in their life. It'll drive you nuts. It's almost like you've got all these responsibilities. So for a person who doesn't love themselves, it's about what you have to do, right? And what you should do. What you're trying to do to get love, frankly, from other people, right? And so you'll watch these people who love themselves be like, nah, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. It's like in a totally different direction. You're going, but what about all this stuff? And they just don't think about it. And yet somehow their life works out. It's really annoying at first. It's like, no, I don't want to do the dishes. It doesn't feel good to me right now. And then some friend will be like, I'll do them. That's how life works for people who love themselves. But I really thought about that. And I was like, you know what? Because I'd already gotten to that point where I was like, I'm either going to kill myself or I'm going to commit to this. So just for the sake of this experiment, let's commit to what it would be like to do that. So I literally just spent 1 month doing only what felt good.
Nice one. That was a good month.
Well, to begin with, it was like doing one thing that I just wanted to do as opposed to what I thought I would have to do resulted in 2 hours of worrying about the outcome. So I had to be very present with that aspect of myself over and over again, and then I noticed that nothing actually fell apart. Then I got really angry. It wasn't like this wonderful process. The anger was like, this is years of this, of being taught that this is how to live life. And I have wasted all that time. So I got angry, then I was present with the anger, and then I started to really enjoy what that felt like. And I started to really feel the imprisonment of other people. It's not until you get outside the box that you actually see how inside the box everyone else is. That was the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I can just feel the imprisonment. Not the imprisonment that other people enforce on each other, but this imprisonment that we enforce on ourselves from the inside. And that became quite painful to watch.
I'm going to go on to another. I asked you backstage as well about a question that you'd love me to ask you.
Okay.
And you told me what that was. So do you want to tell? Let's tell them what that question was you'd love to be asked.
My question was, what would you be doing if you weren't doing this job because it wasn't available to you? It literally didn't exist, right? I thought that was an interesting thing, but I actually didn't think of an answer. So, I think the answer is different depending on how old I would have been. So like from this point right here in my life, if I had to do something completely different, I would probably do something with food. Because like I notice when I watch myself and what makes me feel so good besides doing this type of work, it's cooking.
I'd say you're a good cook, are you?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm not even shy. Like I'm not even gonna try. Okay. I'm really good. Yeah.
Okay. I might do it. You will.
I'm really scary for people to feed too. I could tell you exactly how you made something the minute you feed it to me.
Because you can feel it. You can get a sense of it.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I understand food totally.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. But if I was to start over from square one, I would have been an opera singer. Because I love the stage. I mean, I absolutely love it. And it would be a lot easier just to sing for a living.
You can sing tonight if you want before we finish.
No.
I want to talk to you now about your workshop, why you're here.
Okay.
You're in Ireland to do a workshop all day Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it called? What's it about? What are you going to do?
I don't know what I'm going to do. This is what makes these workshops so fun. I call them Synchronization Workshops. Because I understand that if you are in a room with other people, you're a match to each other. It's a synchronicity. Mm-hmm. That's why you find yourself in the room with these 100 or 200 people. So I can use that to my benefit. If everyone's a vibrational match and I help the person on stage, it corresponds to everyone. The fun part about these, and also the most nerve-wracking, is I don't prepare for them at all.
Oh, really?
Zero.
Yeah. Eckhart told me that too. I said, you're going to speak to so many people. What do you do before? He said, I get a taxi. I said, do you write down anything you're going to talk? He said, no.
No.
That's it. You did that too?
Mm-hmm. It's the best way to teach, but it's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
But during these synchronization workshops, people come with questions. And most people who follow my material, they really have questions they really want answered, right? So they bring them. And so at a certain point, after some experiential exercises that I want to do with the group, I will open it up, and then I'll bring a person up on stage with me and start working them through an issue. But I have no idea who's going to raise their hand, what the question's going to be, whether it's going to be someone who loves me or doesn't. So it's like, everyone's sort of on pins and needles about what the person's going to ask. And it's completely all over the map. Like, all over the map.
That's our plan in the second half, to have you guys ask questions. So I'm sure you have some questions out there, yeah? So we'll see. And maybe we might work with someone. We'll see how it flows, yeah? We'll see how it flows. The other thing I want to talk to you about was the completion process. Okay. That's a book when did that book come out?
August.
Okay, so that's very recent.
Yeah.
Okay. See my research, I've done my research. So tell me about the completion process. Okay,
this is my obsession.
This is your signature tune right now.
It's my obsession right now.
It's your highest excitement right now?
Yes.
Okay. That was another question. So
who knows what will happen in the future, but I'm so incredibly dedicated to this right now. The completion process is a process that I designed to basically solve your past trauma. So I would love to say that it's a post-traumatic stress process, because it does take care of that, but it takes care of all of the issues that you have as a hang-up. But I mean, it's literally everything, because we could consider cancer the result of prior trauma. We could consider post-traumatic stress the result of prior trauma. We could consider depression the product of past trauma. Right? You see where I'm headed with this? Mm-hmm. An adult, in whatever negative state they're in, bad relationship, whatever it is, illness, that's somebody who has post-traumatic stress, but they don't know it. I have never in my life met anyone who doesn't have that.
Everybody has it?
Every person. The point at which we say it's a disorder is when it's now interfering with our life and we're consciously aware that it's the past that's doing that. I mean, interfering to the point where it's making it hard for us to function. But there's not a single person who doesn't fit into that category. Your personality in your adult life is really just an adaptation.
An adaptation?
Yeah. I would love to tell you that your personality is genuine, but it isn't. The ego is not genuine. It is an adaptation.
And tell me about the process, how it works. Don't do it on me.
I know. I'll leave you in your positive zone. Okay, so the way that it works...
Are you doing it on me?
No. You'll never know. Okay, the way that it works is that, you know how you were talking earlier about that event that happens in the world that makes you upset? And you feel that in your body as a somatic reaction, right? That's called a trigger. So Donald Trump triggers me, right? Most of the people who are resisting him right now, that's what they feel. So I feel that trigger. Now, people who are in the positive focus world would say, okay, what we have to do is just focus positively on Donald Trump. You can do that. We'll see how far it gets you. And then it won't get you very far. So basically all of our efforts, whether we're in the spiritual community or whether we're parents to someone or whether we're a psychologist, is mostly to get people away from the trigger. This process takes you in the entire other direction. So you have to go into it instead.
Okay.
So I want you to imagine that trigger is kind of like a tornado that's coming towards you, like a wormhole, right? And the wormhole is linked to something painful in the past.
Donald is in the wormhole?
Oh yeah, he represents trauma for so many people, what they have experienced. Whether it's the relationship with daddy, or the relationship with society in general, the relationship with my school teachers, it always relates to some experience of total powerlessness for people. So, you go straight into the wormhole instead of away from it.
And you're going to bring the person in there.
Oh yeah, and this is where I love living. This is why I think it's funny that you and I are interacting, because normally a person who really, really loves, the positive feeling stuff, the enemy of their reality would be going back there.
Yeah.
That is my heaven. It's my heaven. All of the gold is in there. Can I give you an example of what I mean? Yeah. Okay, and I'll try to make this super simple so you get this, because it's so good. Okay. I want you to pretend that somebody at 6 years old is born into a family that is an immigrant family. That immigrant family is really attached to the idea of education. And so that child is raised with an idea of, no, you're going to school, you're going to this school, you're doing these subjects, you're getting A's, because I want a better life for you than I had. So all of that person, that parent, has just conveyed to the child that their love, their connection, their approval is conditional upon them meeting those standards. That's a trauma. So what happens if that little girl who was born into that immigrant family is in fact a brilliant artist? That doesn't fit into the core curriculum, does it? You can't make money doing art. Mm-hmm. And so that aspect of a child will be discouraged, often so early on that they choose to annex it from their personality, right? But it's annexed within the context of that trauma. So this is an adult who will have no relationship to herself as an artist, none. She'll just feel emptiness. Life's not going to really feel good when she's doing her work that she came through school to do. She's not going to feel good. It's going to be a crisis. So what do? We drive her as deep into the pain of that as we can. We find that original memory. She recovers it. Oh, I was told that art is not okay. I was told this is what I would do. It was super painful to have a parent that was sitting there over me saying, it doesn't matter what you think you are or aren't. This is what you're going to be if you want to live a good life, right? So we relive that pain, and what do we find when we create resolution with it? She re-owns the aspect of herself that's an artist. So I'm going to tell you that you have no idea who somebody is until you've gone into that space. I can't tell you what life looks like for these people. It's positivity on crack.
I like it. I'm converted. I'm converted. Yeah. How many minutes do we have? 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, so suddenly you're dealing with an adult who's like, I feel like painting. I'm painting. I'm going to paint today. And maybe they find their purpose. Maybe their purpose is the exact opposite of what they're doing, and maybe they're happy for once. But that's how it works. It's a process of re-owning oneself. But the subconscious mind, those things that are suppressed, rejected, denied, and disowned, those aspects are the ones that have to be re-owned in order for us to really be happy.
When you go into the wormhole, right, and you go into the kind of block thing, do you just use it as a starting point, or do you have to kind of revel in it and really
You have to revel in it.
You have to get stuck into it.
Yeah, because this is the thing. So you think about that energy. I feel stuck in it. That's resisting still.
Okay.
It's not until the moment that you're like, you can feel yourself fighting, right? You'll fight with it, you'll tense against it, and there will be that moment where it's like, oh, I'm going to let it just take me over, and you really release to it. When you release resistance to it, there's nothing else to run away from. And that's the moment that it really gets good. That's the moment you can create some kind of resolution with that past experience. But I literally will not let somebody create resolution without sitting in it and accepting it. And I mean, it's hard work. It's not easy work to sit with these emotions we've been running away from for years. But
like, take a real simple one that lots of people suffer with, anxiety, right?
Oh, simple?
Well, you know, it's a biggie, right? It's a biggie. But I remember this guy saying to me once, I had anxiety, but I had like fear, right? Strong. It was kind of strong for a while. And he said to me, could you like the fear? I said, no, I don't like it. It's horrible. I don't like it. I don't want to be scared. What am I scared of? There's nothing to be scared of, but I'm scared. And he said, like the fear, because you've got no choice, right? He said, you have it a lot at the moment. I had it a lot for a period of time. And he said, just like it. Just be with it. Just hold it, like what you said earlier on.
And you became a positive focus junkie still?
I'm not really anymore. That's just my kind of...
It seems like the universe keeps bringing us to you.
But that's what you're talking about. That complete non-resistant mode.
Yeah, and I'm not even asking people to like it. I'm asking them to treat it as if it is valid.
It's great talking to you, isn't it? Great talking to her.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm staying up here for ages. So, Ireland, we spoke about it earlier.
Yeah.
You're going to be here for how many days?
4.
4 days. And
I'm looking it up. Tell me. Okay.
What's your plan?
My plan,
Sacred sites. You mentioned Newgrange.
I'm going to Newgrange. I'm pretty excited about that. Where else am I going?
I would recommend Glendalough, but that's like, it's up to yourself.
I'm totally open, you guys. I can't tell you how excited I am. So.
Sounds brilliant. I want to. We have a couple more minutes before the break, so you spoke. I just want to go back to